a little bit edgy because I just had a donut. Whew, I'm not nervous. I'm chill. Whew, here we go, guys. Here we go. That's notable. Hey, I'm Greg Marshall. This is That's Notable. I'm going to be interviewing people who have been recognized as notable marketing executives. So welcome to That's Notable. I hope you enjoy the conversations. Today's episode, we have a very special guest, Justin McCoy. He's the Vice President of Marketing at Cousins Subs. By the way, today's episode is sponsored by Air. Air. We all breathe it. So thanks to our sponsor for supporting the show. Justin has a really impressive resume. He does a lot of things for Cousins Subs. All of the impressive things that make things move, with their audiences, managing advertising agency relationships, developing national promotional calendars, creating system-wide strategic initiatives related to advertising, marketing, and public relations. He's 18 years in the restaurant industry, 4 years with the Milwaukee Bucks, several years in the finance industry. He's on boards, all the special people are, Make It Better Foundation Board, the Vince Lombardi Cancer Foundation Board. He's also on the executive team there. And he has a Bachelor of Arts in Communications from Cardinal Stritch. Shout out to Cardinal Stritch. But yeah, he's a big deal. I'm a little nervous, but we're going to do this. We're going to get through it together. Okay, here we go. Thanks for coming,
Thanks for
Justin. We weren't worried about you showing up or anything. It all worked out good.
That way.
Yeah, I'm just glad you came, on time, actually. So my first question that came to me just a few minutes ago was, I'm curious how many times somebody has referred to you as the real McCoy and how many times it's been funny to you.
Refer to it often. In fact, my grandmother on her answering machine would say, "You've called the real McCoys." So this was always a part of my life. But I get it quite often.
So that's some deep roots. Grandma was rocking it. That gives it credibility.
Absolutely.
For the family just to own it.
Yep.
That's very cool. All right. So I told everybody about your career, some background.
Okay.
We'll get more into that. But some kind of just go through the jugular type questions I'm wondering about. What do you think is the biggest risk you've ever taken in your career, and did it pay off?
Cousins Subs was the biggest risk I ever took in my career.
Why?
So for me, I kind of bounced around after college. I got an internship with the Milwaukee Bucks doing PR and media relations when I was a junior. Sports has been a passion of mine. I wanted to get into professional sports. So after that first year of the internship, the Bucks hired me on as a part-time employee. So I didn't travel with the team, but I worked all the home games, media day, draft, all those things. And I kept doing that because I just loved it. Putting myself through school, I worked as a teller and personal banker and did stuff like that. So when I graduated, I didn't want to end the Bucks gig. I wanted to keep it going on. So I took a job working stock market hours, and I was doing, so I was working in the finance thing, but still doing the Bucks thing. Finance paid well, but I was having a hard time finding a well-paying full-time gig in pro sports. I got offered jobs with the Memphis Grizzlies, a couple other places, but there was no health insurance. It was like $30,000 a year, no, moving stipend or anything, and I had bills to pay. And
you didn't want to just play for the team. You wanted like a job.
Yeah, I wanted to transition. I thought I'd put my time in, and but it's very competitive because each team only has about 2 people in PR. It's a very competitive landscape. So long story to get here, but so I kept working in finance, and the pay was good while I was trying to chase this dream. And at some point, I'm like, this isn't happening. And I saw a job opening with Cousins Subs, and I'm like, it was a marketing job. It was kind of a mix of all the things I really wanted to get into. It's like, I'm just going to apply to it. So I applied to it. I went up, did the interview, loved the culture, and decided I wanted to pursue it. But it was a 50% pay cut. So
wow.
It was a huge leap for me to go there.
What did you have to let go of to make 50% pay cut work?
I mean, fortunately, I had some money stashed away, and I actually got a part-time job, on top of it just to kind of make it work. But that risk was well worth it because here I sit 19 years later and been on a hell of a run.
Yeah, that's amazing. So got a part-time job. I'm thinking about the mentality that you would have had to come in on what sounds like an entry-level marketing position. And you're like, I got to get a part-time job on the side to make things actually work. When a lot of people come in I think it seems like with a greater sense of entitlement towards like, no, I'm special and I should be, you're like, no, like I'm going to have to get a part-time job to keep this thing to make it all work. Why do you think that mentality was part of who you are? Like, why did that make sense?
Well, I came from very little. My parents had me, found out they were going to have me between my mom's junior and senior year. My dad had just graduated. Both of them came from very large farm families in north central Wisconsin. There wasn't a lot of money in their families either. So they were starting behind the eight ball a little bit with me. And really, my work ethic was instilled watching my dad. My dad wanted my mom to be able to stay home. So he worked 70 hours a week, 70, 80 hours a week sometimes at his job.
What did he do?
He worked for Hillshire Farm and Cons in New London, Wisconsin. And so he basically ran the smokehouse there, and he grew in his job there. But it was really watching him, and also pretty much everything I wanted in life I had to work for myself. I started working on farms when I was really young, cash jobs, and I always had jobs, and my parents couldn't afford to put me through school. So when I went to college, I had to pay for that too. So, it's always been my mentality that if I want something, I got to work for it. So when I went into Cousins and knew I was going to take that leap, and like you said, it was an entry level job. I mean, my first job at Cousins, I would go into a store in the morning, I would get sub samples, and I would go out to businesses and just walk in with sub samples and talk to them about Cousins subs, why they should order our product, and try to secure catering orders and partnerships and different things. And then in the afternoon, I would go out with fresh baked cookies and do that. So I went from a nice paying job and working for the Bucks to taking sub sandwiches out and just cold calling on businesses. And that was my first role there. So,
wow. It's kind of interesting way to learn what you're doing now, like having had the experience of walking into the actual physical business and creating that interaction. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I wouldn't change anything about that path either, because what that did for me is not only going into other businesses to talk about the brand, but I had a territory of stores, and I really got to know the owners. I got to know what it was like to run the restaurant and actually be in the store. And I feel that time helped me build credibility internally within the organization too, because I was going out and doing these things. And as I continued to grow within the organization, they knew that at one point in time, before I was sitting behind a desk predominantly and presenting to them, that I was out there just, pushing their sales every day in the streets and in their territories and around their stores.
So what, let's say how many chapters has there been in your roles? So you had that entry level. What were the different steps to where you're at?
Yeah, so I was about 9 months at marketing specialist. Then I got promoted to a marketing consultant. The transition there was then I was working with a territory of franchisees and advising them on their local store marketing spend. So as part of their franchise agreement, they have to spend 0.5% on local store marketing. So it was my job to then consult with them and try to figure out the most lucrative way to invest those dollars.
And why did you know how to do that, or did you not?
I didn't.
Yeah. So did you have to pretend like you did at first, or were you trained heavily in it, or how did that work?
There was training, but there was also intuition, and it was just kind of a, work as I went. Really, it was a lot of working with them to develop partnerships. And then if they wanted to advertise locally, I really had to kind of I was self-taught a little bit. If it was like a Valpak or a Money Miller or things like that, trying to help them decide where they should be putting those dollars. And so worked in that job for probably a little under a year again, and then was promoted to marketing manager. So then I was managing the marketing consultants. And then from there went to senior marketing manager, and then moved to director. And that was all within about a 5-year period. So it was each year I got promoted and got up to director. And then I was in the director role for probably, I think, about 2 years. And then Christine Specht, Bill's daughter, our founder's daughter, took over as CEO and president. And then she wanted to put together just a new leadership team, and she gave me an opportunity. She gave me an opportunity for 9 months to be the interim vice president. I was just interim. I was fulfilling the role of director and VP, and then we were out in Vegas for our 40th anniversary, and I was about to go up and speak, and she was introducing me, and she introduced me to the crowd as the new VP of marketing. That's how I found out I was promoted to vice president.
Wow, how long ago was that?
Yeah, so we're on about 11 or 12 years now.
Man,
yeah,
that's a pretty awesome moment.
It was. I was pretty shook. I don't get shook off. I mean, I'm a softie. I'll let some tears flow here and there, but not generally in a setting like that. And that really
And
got
she
me.
knew that you had no clue at that point.
She knew I'd been bugging her about like, how long do I need to do this for you to say that I'm doing the job well, And she just, she wanted me to have some time to work with her, to sit in on the leadership team meetings, and it all worked out fine. But when I found that out, coming from where I came from, I had goals to get to a point like that. I had goals where I wanted to, just getting to a role of leadership within an organization was one goal. There was a certain salary threshold I wanted to get to, and like that opportunity checked off 2 or 3 things for me. And, I just had a lot of pride about that. And when she put out the memo to the system, I printed out that memo and I put it in 3 different envelopes. And I went up to go visit my family, who all still live in my hometown of 900 people, Shakopee, Wisconsin. And we went out to our favorite fish fry spot. And when we sat down to have our old fashions before dinner, I gave each of them an envelope, and then they opened them, and that was how I told them.
That's awesome, man. Now there's a statue in the hometown.
No, I am not. No, I don't qualify for that, but.
When you were doing the marketing manager, coordinator, I can't remember the exact term, but you were telling people like where to spend their money. Yeah. Do you remember any times where somebody was mad at you because you told them to do something and they didn't think it worked?
Yeah. I think there were definitely times where we put dollars into something and maybe didn't get the return that we wanted it to.
How did you handle that? Do you remember what that felt like and how you had to handle it emotionally?
Yeah, I do. I just went into the store and sat down with the franchisee, and I said, hey, we took a swing here. I recommended this. I'll take it. I'll own it. But here's what we learned from that. So this is what we're going to do different next time, or this is what I would recommend we do different next time. So I just try to face it head on. I'm always very much like, even in my personal life, I would rather communicate about something if there's tension about something versus just like beating around the bush. And that's how I've always approached it. So.
From day one to where you're at now, what would you say was some, like maybe 1 or 2 of the moments that you're most proud of?
Yeah, that moment in Vegas was a biggie. That was a real biggie. It was just the culmination of a lot of work. I didn't always have a clear vision of where I wanted to end up in terms of a role. And as I look at it today, the role I have really was a culmination of all the different experiences I had in internships and part-time jobs as I was in school. And I love all aspects of marketing. I love the PR side. I love the production side. I enjoy the media buy side. So I enjoy all of it. And at Cousins, I get to do all that. And it was just such a big moment in Vegas when that happened. I'd say the next moment after that was Cousins. I'm blessed with the opportunities that Cousins and the Speck family have given me. They believed in me to really take what was their baby and try to evolve it, from a look and feel standpoint, from a branding standpoint. Mm-hmm. I got to work basically to help redesign and create the prototype for the new location, redo the logo, redo all the packaging, redo the menu boards, all of it. And when we opened that first location that was remodeled, that really brought us to, today, and brought us to a point where I feel we could compete with all the fast casual brands that were coming out. That was a huge moment too. And now today, I think we're up to 85 to 90% of all the stores have now been renovated. Mm. When I first joined, we had like 8 different color palettes and different things. And because previous leadership never required the community and the corporate stores, we didn't remodel them. So they were the original look. So if you recall going to Cousins, probably 10 years ago, you would have saw a much different look every time you went in. Whereas now we've really contemporized and brought the brand forward while honoring our past. And I think when that first one came out, that was another moment that was great.
What's your actual work life look like? Because it sounds like you got a lot of things, a lot of responsibility. You love it, and that would make me think that maybe it draws you in a lot. Like you're doing a lot. Like what does that look like?
Yeah. So I would say like I'm not a person who loves sitting behind a desk all day long. I'm very much a people person, and I go out and meet with my vendors a lot, whether it be our media buyers or I'm meeting with our digital agency or going out and talking with our sports partners and different things, and very much involved in different events. But I would say I'm in the office probably 3 days a week. Tuesdays are our big meeting days. So we do our leadership meetings on Tuesday mornings. Then I have my marketing team meeting in the afternoon. So Tuesdays just meetings all day. Same pages with my staff and different things. But beyond that, though, each week is different. It could be a production. It could be quarterly business reviews. It could be, it could be an event that I'm at. It could be out doing something like this or speaking at a conference, doing something like that. So, it's definitely a job that is 7 days a week. But I still am able to keep balance in my life. I mean, with technology today and then just the work from home being not frowned upon as the way it was in the past, I actually get more done when I do work from home because it's less of meeting and talking with all the different people that are coming in the office or getting distracted by stuff. So when I work from home, I'm able to get just a ton done. But it's definitely, 50, 60 hours a week. And then when it's called for, more than that.
Yeah. How many franchisees do you have across the company?
So it's reduced quite a bit because we started buying back stores a couple years ago. So we're now up to 50 plus stores of the 95 are corporate owned now. It's the largest we've ever been from a corporate standpoint. We had a lot of boomer franchisees. So a lot of them are looking to, move on and retire. And we've also seen it as an opportunity to possibly reposition locations at times too, where maybe they didn't want to make that investment because they were getting to the end of what would be, their business venture, where we could take a unit that maybe was like an inline unit, and our most successful units are freestanding drive-throughs. So we started buying them back and then moving some of them around and doing some of that stuff. But today, I think we're down to about just over 20 ownership groups now. We have one large multi-unit franchisee, and then we actually have two larger multi-unit franchisees and then a bunch of one-offs.
Would you consider Donald Driver a large franchisee now? What is he? He's aiming for...
He's a large presence, for sure. But Donald isn't technically a franchisee. He co-owns, we're up to 7 stores with us corporately.
Okay.
So we co-own them together.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of him with the staff and stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we just opened a new location on College Avenue in Appleton, and that's one of the stores that he partners with us on. So he was up visiting the team and, interacting with the crowd as he always does.
Yeah. So are you naturally extroverted and you like being out at events and connecting and stuff?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What would you say is the harshest criticism you've received in your career at any point?
I was let go from one job, deservedly so. My heart wasn't in it. And it was pointed criticism, but it was criticism I needed at the time because that was what started to spark me to look for the role that I got at Cousins. Because it was basically in the finance world, and I was just, it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. It was just paying bills. I was dotting I's and crossing T's, and then it was get out of there as quick as I could each day. And it was because my passion was elsewhere. And that was also what led to me to be willing to take the pay cut. The second component of that was that it became very apparent to me in the interview that culturally it was a good fit for me. Coming from a small town, moving down to Milwaukee, living downtown Milwaukee, many of my first jobs being at large companies like Baird and Northwestern Mutual, and just, you're kind of like a number. Great companies, but just not the right culture for me. I didn't know it at the time, but then when I interviewed with Cousins, and I just could tell something was different. And I didn't fully know what that was until I was actually working for them. But in the interview process, I felt that, and that was part of what drew me into.
Why is the culture like that?
Christine and Bill have. I just say in general, they've created a family environment. It was a family-owned business to begin with. Many of the employees have been there for a very long time. I mean, I'm going on 19 years now, but we just recently, we had our senior director of purchasing retire last year, and he'd been with the organization for 48 years. We have several 40-year employees that were they started out working in stores when Cousins was first founded in the early 70s. And then they transitioned into working at the corporate office. But it's not just in the tenure of the staff. Under Christine and Bill's leadership, they very much have. We do a lot of things to really bring the group together. In fact, last night we had our annual golf outing at Dretska, which is up near our office. And you don't have to be like a big golfer to be in this golf outing, but we do it as a Ryder Cup format. And this year we did Marvel versus DC Comics. So we were all dressed up and had a great time, and it's just stuff like that. When someone's getting married, someone has a kid, whatever, we invite in their families, we host things at the office. We do, this year, we have a culture committee that sets up these events for us. And this year we went to the zoo and we had a scavenger hunt at the zoo and had like a whole thing where we were all broke up into teams. And, so there's investment in that, it just doesn't happen that way. And we hire that way too. We have interview questions that are really, that target, to talk to candidates about, to see if their values match up with our core values as well. So it's a very conscious effort all the way around to keep that going.
Yeah. So how do you keep that family? Obviously, relationships are really important with each other, with customers. You want to create this connection. Mm-hmm. How are you thinking about the future of automated everything? Restaurants are going more towards AI, trying to figure out how to just basically delete human interaction. How do you manage that? Where do you think that's headed with Cousins?
Yeah, we haven't dove down that path too strong yet. We still believe that people are needed to execute what we're trying to do. So we haven't really incorporated that sort of automation into our operation and our guest service standpoint, but we have invested heavily to push people to online ordering, things like that. So it does eliminate a bit of the human interaction. So then it's really trying to make sure that user experience is smooth, works well for them. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say we still view ourselves very much as a people business. So we definitely look for efficiencies, but we haven't gone down the full path of we're going to reduce headcount through tech.
You could also have your employees try to talk more like robots. Yeah. And that might just kind of fill the gap,
Yeah, might connect to those who are used to all that.
Go ahead and share. You can share that idea with the leadership team.
I'll pass that along on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, it'll probably go a long way with everybody. So can you think about a campaign that you thought was going to be awesome that totally flopped? Something you're like, oh, heck yeah, I have the idea. And then you get out there and it's just, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed. I wanted to bring back into focus our cheesesteaks last year. And I thought we had some great talent and I thought we had a great spot. And I didn't see the bump that I wanted to see in our cheesesteak sales from that. There's always a lot of noise, going on with different things, but I was hoping for a little bit bigger bump with that. So I would say I was a little bit disappointed with that one last year.
You were able to discern what it maybe was, just timing?
I think partially timing. Our industry, we have all had tremendous pressure where we've had to really raise the pricing on our products. And I think that all married up with, I'm promoting a pricier product. We believe in the quality of that product and we believe that it holds that value and it's, competitive to the market. But it was at a time that I feel like really we started to see our guest base being squeezed, their pocketbooks being squeezed. And that's really transitioned as we moved into this year where we're really, we're all being forced to do a lot more discounting and different things to try to get people in the stores because, let's just face it, looking out there right now, people have less disposable income to spend.
Mm-hmm. What's the most innovative or unique campaign or marketing strategy you've tried?
So I'm a Wisconsin boy through and through. Grew up going up north to places like Minocqua and Eagle River and different things. And when we go out to the supper club and there'd be the drinks the family would have before we'd sit down to have dinner, it was always, Dad, give me some money so we can get the pull tabs and sit down and do the pull tabs. And I had wanted to bring that to life in our stores. And earlier this year, we did our first ever Cousins Subs pull tab campaign, and it went really well. We learned a lot. We learned our discount strategy with them. We will adjust that when we bring it back. But the overall feedback from our guests was great. It just, it's Wisconsin thing through and through. And I think it really resonated with our guests. Yeah, and I enjoyed that one.
Is Cousins outside of Wisconsin? Where are you guys at right now?
We're only in Indiana now. At one point in time, we were.
Why Indiana? That seems kind of random.
So we were in 14 states at one time. So under previous leadership, when they decided to start franchising, I would say if they were sitting here today, they would admit that they were pretty much, oh, you want to open a franchise? Cool. Here you go. And then there wasn't, it probably wasn't as stringent of a process as it could have been in the selection of candidates. And the second piece that was probably not, I won't say well thought out, but just the choices of where they allowed the franchisees then to open the stores. And so when we came together as a leadership team, we decided that we really needed to clean all that up, because a lot of those operators who were signed under that former leadership were subpar operators. And so we basically had a planned retraction. We just paused growth. We cleaned up the system. And then we did the reinvestment and redesigned the stores, got the stores redesigned, and started the remodel program. But then we started doing research. So where did we want to grow? And we wanted to do it ourselves. We didn't want to have a franchisee do it. We wanted to go out and do it corporately, because we'd had failures, and we didn't want to have excuses for going and opening a store in a different market and say, well, it was this or it was that. We wanted to go out and do it the way we would do it. So what we did is each of us in our various roles on the leadership team were responsible for, we picked all the Midwest. We basically picked the Midwest because we wanted to be pretty much contiguous to the state of Wisconsin. And we all did our own scorecard on our different areas of each of these different markets. And when we came down to the end of it, Indianapolis was the highest scored market after all of our research and all the things that we went through. And so we opened our first location there last year. We just opened our second location about a month ago, and things are going well. And Indy is a lot like Milwaukee, different, but there's a lot of similarities in a lot of different ways.
What would be an example of a similarity?
Well, from my area, like just cost to promote a business and different things, and looking at like what digital outdoor, TV, radio, looking at all the different aspects and things of that nature. Spending more time down there and getting to know people, just doing different events and things like that. I think the product has really resonated with the folks down there too. We still have a lot of room to grow and to create awareness for the brand, but thus far it's gone well, but that was why that was chosen.
Yeah. So what I'm observing as you're sharing is it's like a laser focused, passionate about the contribution you're making to this company. You're passionate about the brand itself. And then there's just you as a person who is you, like apart from the brand, but you've chosen to invest in this brand as a person because it's worthwhile, it's the right culture, and it's beneficial to you. Like it's rewarded you to work really hard and to believe in it. And I think it's a unique mix of like, and I kind of curious about your, like how you see your own identity and like where you stop and Cousins Subs starts, or if you just have to live like, no, it's one and the same. Like I am intertwined, my life is intertwined, and that's how I want it. So before I get to the question I was starting to ask, can you speak to that? Like, where's Justin stop and Cousins Subs begin? Or is there a line?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a line. I feel for one, that desire and why I've been here for so long is because they have invested in me too. They gave me a shot. They've also been there for probably some of the most significant things in my life. Like my child was born just right after I started, who's now a freshman at UW Milwaukee. My son Brady, pretty much gone through most of the more important years of my adult life working for Cousins, and they've supported me through ups, downs, and everything in between. They've also invested in me in my career. They put me through various leadership programs and different things. Currently, I'm a part of Executive Agenda, which they've invested in for me, so I can be a part of that. So very passionate about the brand. I also feel such ownership, right? Like,
yeah, because they hear you, they listen to you.
Yeah, and so I do everything I can, and I love the people too. Our employees, our teams in our stores, and our franchisees. I have long-standing relationships with all of them. So, I mean, as long as I'm with this brand, I'm going to do everything to help it succeed. Outside of that, though, I do feel that I've been able to build my own brand too. I would say I feel I'm pretty well networked. I have great relationships, outside of the brand. When I go and I do sports talk radio, it's just not talking Cousin Subs, it's talking sports too. If I'm on with Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, we're talking about the Packers and we're talking about the Bucks and other things I'm passionate about.
How often does somebody try to poach you?
It happened. I feel like it's slowed down a little bit, but it happened for a while, for sure. But what I would tell you is that, that question that you asked, it is something I've been thinking about more, and I have been having conversations with Christine and our president, Jason, because I do think at some point I want another challenge. I don't know what that is, and I don't know when that's going to be. And it's going to be really...
Maybe it's the first robot.
Yeah, something like that, man. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's hard not to tie me with Cousins for as long as I've been there, and being spokesman for the brand alongside with Christine. I mean, I'm out there. I talk about the brand a lot. But also when I step away from Cousins, I have a whole nother life. I have my son, I have my family, I have a really close group of friends. I have hobbies, things that I do that are uniquely about me. And
What's one of your hobbies?
One of my hobbies, I have a road bike. I like to bike. So that's one thing I like to do. I love to cook. So love hosting people and cooking for them. Just Tuesday night, got together with a couple of my close friends and sipped on some bourbon. They popped open the Eagle Rare and I cooked the meal for us and watched the Brewer game. And then also I'd say travel and hiking. So I like to take at least 1 to 2 trips a year, usually by myself when I fly out somewhere out west or the Pacific Northwest or on the Pacific coast. And I just go hike Redwood National Forests and various other spots that I want to go do stuff like that and just get away. It's kind of my reset period.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So I want to land in this area of if there was a way to package your mindset and the way that you relate to your profession that's been very fruitful. Like you talked about the hard work, you just observed it, you grew up in it. You were very proud to show your family, like, look what happened. I did us. I did it like we do it, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Like there's that pride there. It's a mindset. It's an attitude. It's a culture. How would you articulate that to either younger you already kind of knew it, it was already in your DNA, but a student who's graduating right now? I've been meeting with a few different people who are graduating with marketing or PR type degrees, communications degrees, and they're looking for advice. So like, how do I navigate this? Where do I go? And the mindset is often, in my opinion, not in line with reality of how it works.
Yeah.
What can you just speak to that mindset and like the way of behaving that you think is the most fruitful for that person to consider?
Yeah, I spoke to a group at a college recently. I always start with the internship and exposure. I'm a big believer in exposing yourself to. I told them, work to try to expose yourself to leaders and people who have made it, or that you perceive have made it, or that you look up to, and try to get opportunities just to observe them or pick their brain, and just really understand their story. As I moved down here and it was a little overwhelming when I first got here because Milwaukee was so big compared to where I came from. I didn't do that right away. But then when I started getting involved in my internships, I started exposing myself to more people, just trying different things. You got to I believe you got to find your passion. And then once you find your passion, then you got to find the right fit for that passion to like blossom and grow. And, I realized that when I got to Cousins, that I had passion for what I was doing, but yet it was this culture and environment that like was the right fit for me. And I think those two things are extremely important to try to succeed. But the next thing, I have a lot of young staff, so they want things really quickly. And oftentimes I'm just trying to preach patience. And I'm also trying to teach them about when you want to chase something, you can't necessarily just leave at 5, like I'm not asking you to work 80 hours a week, but like, I'm hearing you and what you want, but understand like, these people above you within this organization, those are the things they did. They put in the extra time, the extra drive to get there. And so I'm just trying to instill that on a daily basis right now. And, really trying to get them focused, keep them patient, and really driven towards trying to get to whatever that end goal is for them. And, with some, we all have turnover, and I know that they're not going to be with us forever. So I speak openly, like, while you're here, I want to help you, grow in all the areas you want to grow to. So when you take that next step, whether it's within our organization or another, you're on a path that's going to keep you growing and doing the things you want to do. So, really, I'd say it's that exposure, I think, to various acts, like whatever career path you want to be in, trying to expose yourself to different leaders and different opportunities to try to figure out get a little bit better feel for what you want to do. Then look for an organization that is a type of organization that is a good fit for you, and then go for it. Then put the work in, but be patient. Give it a little bit of time. Don't job hop every 12 months, which tends to happen a little bit too. And I did that when I was younger too.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, a couple random questions. Tell me about your tattoos, if you don't mind.
Tattoos. This one is my son. He was 6 weeks old. Took him in the lake, and I have a picture of me holding my little naked baby boy and taking him in the water for the first time. So that's what this one is. It's me holding him doing that. And then this one is also for my son. One of my favorite bands is called John Butler Trio. And this was the concert poster for a show at Red Rocks. And I took my son there when he was 12. It was his very first concert. I took him to Red Rocks. And so this was the concert poster for that. The concert poster, though, had the actual Red Rocks as a blue color. I did them as the Red Rocks because I wanted it to symbolize Red Rocks.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
Very nice. Well, dude, I appreciate you making time for me to get to interview you. I think the energy of what you're saying is it's encouraging just to be around your vibe of just like care about it. Just care about the thing you're doing, and don't be afraid of the sacrifice that's necessary in order to advance, because it ends up being worth it. And I think that's just talk about like being recognized as a notable marketing executive. I'm wondering, as I talk to more people, if that's a theme across the board of people just chose to be the kind of person who cares and believes it's worth it to make the sacrifices in order to be as valuable as you can possibly be. And I think you carry that energy really, really clearly.
I think that's a key word too, is belief. You know what I mean? My favorite books to read are biographies. I like reading about people who've made it. And that to me is a common theme. They never believed that they couldn't get to where they wanted to go. And I've had my struggles with that too. But I can't tell you that 25 years ago, I thought I would be sitting here having achieved what I've achieved. Growing up where I grew up, and, my family every day, like, what are you doing today? Why are you, but you have to believe. You have to believe. Even when you have setbacks, you got to believe. And you just got to keep plowing forward, man. Like, you just have to.
Perfect ending. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Say, that's notable.
That's notable.
It is.